Last week on the Poisonrana Patreon, we talked all about the 2002 Royal Rumble in a brand new episode of Reviews from the Six. And then 25, Mr. Perfect makes his return to WWF rather.
Yeah, like, isn't this pretty crazy? Like, they say his first Rumble was 93. You know, think late 80s, early 90s. This guy was a pretty prominent character in WWF. And all these years later, you know, after WCW's gone and everything, he's returned here. And he's got the towel and he's throwing it in the air. I bet he was nervous that he wasn't going to catch it. I was.
He throws it like 6 times. It's like, cool, have you got anything else you can do?
Yeah, like, did you bring the pencil? You got gum? What do you got? You got a football? But
it's a basketball hoop, yeah.
Look what I can do.
Get this show plus hundreds of podcasts featuring wrestling reviews, movie reviews, retro NXT reviews, best match ever, and so much more. Go to patreon.com/poisonrana. It's only $5 a month. So what are you waiting for?
What are you waiting for, huh? What are you waiting for?
First time in a long time, but back like I never left. Taking each day as it comes, you know me, I don't read ahead. Watch me burn down everything, BDE on the TV set. When I'm in control on the road, you could never really know what's up next.
Hello.
Hello, hello, hello.
Braden Herrington here with Davie Portman for Up Next. You found us at postwrestling.com, Apple, Spotify, Podcast Addict, whatever podcast app you are using right now. But of course, we are
live on youtube.com/postwrestling. Hello, YouTube room. How are we doing?
Hello, YouTube room. Hello, everybody. It's Tuesday, February 4th, 10:05 p.m. Eastern. We're here to talk about some NXT wrestling, and you know why. You know why. Because we are your NXT friends.
Friends!
We'll always be your NXT friends, no matter
friend.
what. You're my friend, yes. You are my friend, Davie. Hello, everybody. You are our friends, too, and we appreciate you. Maybe you're in the YouTube chat right now on Post Wrestling. Drop a frog for us in the chat if you're there. And hey, super chats are welcome here on the Post Wrestling YouTube. But hello, it's post Royal Rumble. We are officially on the road to WrestleMania and Vengeance Day. But wow, kick in.
Oh, yes,
gear.
we are. Yeah,
We
talked all about the Royal Rumble on Sunday. If you haven't already, go give us a follow. Poisonrana on YouTube and wherever you find your podcast. We did an extensive review of the show, our thoughts, where we think we're going, what we think the WrestleMania card will be. It seems to be changing every day, like in my head. But yeah, was a great chat about that. I'm sure we're going to get in some Raw talk today because a lot of news coming out of Raw last night as well. And I guess we're on the road to Stand and Deliver as well, but got to get through Vengeance Day first. But maybe we're starting to see some pieces move into place for that show as well.
Some pieces moving into play, some queens showing up or returning, and some dance partners from the past make a return here tonight on NXT. Oh boy. Yes. We chatted all about the Royal Rumble. We did a whole review of the show. Yes, we are up next, but we are also Poisonrana. Give us a follow on Instagram, Twitter, Blue Sky, and your podcast app. We have tons of podcasts. Every Sunday we go live. And this past Sunday, we chatted all about the Royal Rumble and then some WrestleMania plans, like Davie said. But this Friday on our feed for free at 6 p.m. Eastern Time, Eagles Don't Hunt Flies will return. Martin Bushby, Dickie Bird, and Brandon from New Jersey will reunite to chat about Dean Ambrose / John Moxley, the mixtape podcast there, covering part 2 of the feud with Kenny Omega. That will be a free podcast for you Ambrose out there. That's what they like to call themselves. But we also have What Up, Doe. I just dropped a detox with myself and Jordan Goodman talking all about some nonsense, checking you out of this crazy and wild world. And Shot in the Dark, 15 minutes or less. John Cena, Evil, will fill you in on all the other wrestling, including dog food matches, dog strap matches, all the type of matches from Women of Wrestling, plus Ring of Honor, Impact, and so much more. So we have a lot.
Shot in the Dark, it's they made it easier for him when, AEW Dark was no longer, and now AEW Rampage is no longer. But he's now going to have WWE Evolve, WWE Let's Fucking Go, LFG.
Oh, is that what that stands for? I didn't know that.
So yeah, I'm sure Cena will be covering that when those shows start. And I think I'll be checking out at least the first episodes of both to see what they're all about as well.
Yeah, I love Tubi. So I'm definitely going to be checking out whatever. Is Gabe Sapolsky behind this? He's got to be. He's Evolve, right? So pretty cool that they're bringing back that name. If you listen to us through the pandemic, we chatted about some Evolve before it became kind of under the WWE umbrella. So we know a little bit about it.
Maybe this is where Giovanni Vinci will find himself eventually, because he seems to have gone missing. And I know a certain Fabian Eichner had some success with Evolve back in the day.
Yeah, it'll be very interesting. I'm definitely going to check it out. It's funny. It's on Wednesdays. I think they debut at 8 on Wednesdays. So of course, to go up against some other wrestling. But I'll definitely be checking out. I saw the ad here for it during NXT, and it caught my attention because it looked like Level Up. It looked like a little bit of that, but with the Evolve branding.
I wonder how this is going to be, because we saw in the commercial for it, we saw some people we've seen in NXT.
And then the ID people.
Yeah. So I wonder if this is going to be more like your ID talent, kind of the independent talent that they've signed up. And maybe LFG is going to be more of their performance center, like next in line recruits that they'll be training up. I wonder if it's going to be split that way or just both will be a mix of both. But I am curious, especially considering we're like the NXT show, the developmental show. I'm interested to see where they're going with both these brands.
Yeah, I will be checking out a little bit of both. Definitely, at least at the start, for sure, just to see what it is, right? It looks a whole, like, both shows look different, the LFG and the Evolve LFG. It's like Tough Enough, but mixed with Level Up. It's got like Booker T, Mickey James, Undertaker, like
Bubba Ray. Yeah, everyone's favorites, right?
I don't know. Undertaker scored some brownie points this week. Did you see this? Him on his podcast. I selfishly love hearing any old BSK stories. So when the Godfather is talking with the Undertaker and talking about their pants or whatnot, I gotta hear it. But he, it sounds like Undertaker had some choice words for their Hulk Hogan getting booed a few weeks ago. It was like, what comes around goes around kind of thing. So Undertaker.
Well, no, that he was only booed because he was in the NWO 25 years ago, right?
He was healing it up. Yeah.
He
just forgot to do the mustache that way and the dye and everything. But yeah. So Evolve and LFG coming soon, but so is a bunch of other wrestling. Like we said, it's the road to WrestleMania. We talked all about the Royal Rumble. We can talk about some Raw stuff as well, but we told a very funny story on Sunday during Poisonrana Live, where we talked about our Rumble party that we just did, the Rana Rumble, if you will, this past Saturday at Gabby's. Shout out anyone who was there or who showed up and who was there in spirit. We had a fun time. We filled the place. We had such a party. It went on without a hitch, and we played some Rumble pools. And you had some great like stipulations and games where we were playing with like big boards and selling numbers and everything. And like you made it so like, hey, obviously first place would win some money, second runner up and Iron Man. And then we gave out some prizes allotted to it. And we talked about on Sunday this story about how someone who had Liv Morgan at one point said that she was the Iron Woman. So his number that he drew was allocated to Liv. So I quickly went to Twitter and searched Liv Morgan, and people online were saying that she was the Iron Woman for the Royal Rumble match. So I gave him the $50. We're like, yeah, of course, here you go. Fast forward to the end of the night, someone comes up to us being like, hey, I was Roxanne. So not only was I like runner-up, but I also was the Iron Woman. So I'm deserved $50. And we're like, oh my God, we already gave that to Liv Morgan. So we're like, whatever, here you go. Here's $50. You're right. Here you go. And he's like, oh, thanks. And then walked off. And then we realized, we looked at each other and we laughed. We're like, oh man, we gave that Liv Morgan guy money when we shouldn't have. And we laughed it off. We talked about it on the show. Yesterday, we got an email from this guy saying, hey, I'm so sorry, but later found out that Roxanne was actually the Iron Woman. So I'd like to give you your $50 back. So Canadians are nice. You know what? Our Poisonrana community, we are full of honest and sweet, sweet people. Look at that.
You know, it then gets funnier because I show up to work yesterday and I see that a Madry cooler case and 6-pack of beer are still there, which was one of the prizes. And luckily we hadn't thrown out the boards. So I check who it is. And you know who it is? The person that gave the $50 back. So then I think it was his pal he was sat with. So then I'm emailing them again and I'm like, hi, me again. You do actually have a prize you can come and collect at some point. So we've just been yo-yoing these prizes between everyone. But yeah, everyone very honest and you love to see it.
Yeah, that is just hilarious. We were like, well, we'll just eat that 50. It's fine. But he returned it. So in return, he'll get some sweet beer and a cooler. Look at that, the way the world goes. But yes, Canadians are that nice all the time. But again, thank you to anyone who showed up. We had WH in the house from Post Wrestling, Post Perez. We had Mike Murray. We had Jesse from the Six. We had the Golden Grand. We had Big Tom, Pure Fandom. We had all representation of our Toronto crew, and I'm sure I'm missing some people. But again, thank you.
Virgin Radio. And
yeah, we got shouted out on the radio beforehand, which was very cool. Shout out Miles from Virgin. That was definitely awesome. Got to get him on for a future pod. But it was a lot of fun. We're very proud of like the community that we built here in Toronto for just being like a little wrestling club, because sometimes it beats watching it alone at home is really fun, no shame in it, but it's a lot of fun when we can all get together and enjoy this silly thing called wrestling that doesn't seem so silly anymore because a lot of people are watching, a lot of people are interested. We had to turn a lot of people away this pack. We sold the bar out, and you were adding tables that didn't exist, dude. You were filling them in for that Rumble. We could have had a Royal Rumble like 5 times over at this bar on Saturday.
We could have had a World War III Rumble, yeah, 3
exactly.
rings. Yeah.
And the Royal Rumble shot was great. The $5 the bartender chooses, so you don't know. It's like a Royal Rumble number countdown. That was a big success as well. So that was a lot of fun. And it leads me to my first plug of the evening, because if you are in Toronto, or maybe you're making your way to the 6 for March 1st for the Elimination Chamber, well, we got some news for you, because are you ready to lock in? Yes. On Saturday, March 1st, right before the pay-per-view, we will be hosting a free Poisonrana Elimination Chamber tailgate, where we will be hosting a very fun tailgate party right before the chamber. It's about a 5 to 10 minute walk from the chamber, from the Sky Dome, the Rogers Center, and our friend, the folk icon, a singer-songwriter, Ivan Rivers, will be performing WWE/wrestling theme songs, covers, live, in person, plus wrestling karaoke, some prizes, our wrestling drink specials, and so much more. And there is no cover. So what are you waiting for? Come lock in with us March 1st, 309 King Street West. Gabby's, as always, we are taking over Toronto, and we're going to sing along with some wrestling theme songs. And I'm very excited about this, and I can't wait to see some of you fine people out there.
And I believe I did speak to the guy who'd be managing that night. Karaoke is happening at Gabby's that night, but in the bar area, we are going to put the Elimination Chamber on as well. So you might have to compete with, people belting out Sweet Caroline at the other side of the bar, but we will have the event on as well for those of you not going. It's going to be a really fun day. Whether you're going to the event or not, come and hang out with us. It's absolutely free. We'll have some great drinks on the go, some great songs. We might have a little go at karaoke ourselves between us all, but Ivan is awesome. He's terrific. So really looking forward for you to all hear him and his versions of a lot of these wrestling songs that we all know and love. And then just get a hangout with fellow wrestling fans. So it's going to be a great time. We're kicking things off at 2 p.m. And and we'll just be partying right until the Elimination Chamber starts.
Yeah. So again, this is like a 5 to 10 minute walk from the Sky Dome. And they have announced that the pay-per-view, the PLE, does start at 7 p.m. Eastern time. So starting at 2, we'll be at the bar. We'll be having some wrestling on the screens. Ivan will be singing some sets. And then maybe we'll play some games. We might have some raffles. We're going to have some beers. And we want to get a little rowdy, and we want to lock in for this Elimination Chamber, which I'm very excited about. I'm more excited about this than the actual show because I know I'll be spending a lot of money to go. But nevertheless, I'm very excited. And if you're thinking about it, please come on down. It will cost you nothing. I mean, buy some drinks and tip your staff, but we're not charging any cover. And Ivan's going to be singing some songs. He is performing every Monday this February at the Cameron House in Toronto too. Again, if you're a Toronto folk, but I'm really looking forward to this. And I think some people in the post wrestling world have. I talked to WH today. He might make an appearance. Mike Murray. Who knows? Who knows who could show up at this thing? But I'm very excited. So if you are thinking about it, if you are making your way for Chamber, come in to Gabby's at 2 p.m. and lock in with us, please.
Absolutely. For more information, just go to Poisonrana.ca, and it's the first link on our link tree.
Absolutely. Very, very excited. I see a super chat here from Jake from the Windy City. Yes, super chats are welcome here on the Post Wrestling YouTube. He says, before driving home from Indy, I had a breakfast at Waffle House the morning after, and it was all the fans who attended. Loved being with my people. Yes. Are you referring to the people at Waffle House, or are you referring to wrestling fans? Because I've been to a Waffle House before.
Or the Venn diagram that collides. It's specifically wrestling fans who are a fan of Waffle House. So I imagine you're talking about the WH Parks of the world.
I like Waffle House, but I think I like Denny's or IHOP, Cracker Barrel. That's become a wrestling breakfast place too. But very nice, Jake. I bet you had a great time at the Royal Rumble. We talked about the Rumble and how my favorite thing ever was seeing from that night was seeing I Show Speed getting speared into oblivion, into another realm. And then Jey Uso shocking the world, and most people's Rumble picks or Rumble pool numbers shocked everybody. And then on Monday night comes out, opens up Raw last night, and just has the three-peat of his song just playing on loop where the crowd are like, no, you got to do it one more time. But no, he totally should not have won the Royal Rumble. Like that, he's a complete awful choice.
I am so surprised at the reaction,
the discourse
from people. And I don't know how much is it people who have just, I don't know, recently got back into WWE or what? Because I'm seeing ridiculous things like, oh, this guy's only just started getting popular and things like that. Like this whole story with Jey goes way back to pandemic, right? And he is the most over guy at the moment, or at least one of them. I was really high on Jey winning this. I like a bit of a surprise, but I just think it's all those years when we've been wanting like a Daniel Bryan to win it, and he's not even in the thing, or a Kofi or other moments, people that we felt should have got a push, when Rusev Day was over and then that got killed and all these other times. I think it's great to just go with it. Like WrestleMania is huge now. It's a 2-day event. It's going to be full of so many big matches. Why not just strap the rocket to a guy like Jey Uso? And yeah, like I was really surprised, and like seeing like the cage match rating for this Royal Rumble, which I think both of us were fairly positive on the show, and listening to John and Way as well, like they seem pretty positive. And the rating just seems to be like, just people didn't like this decision, and I'm quite surprised by it.
Yeah, like, you know what? The Uso story goes further than that. I mean, this guy's been employed for a long time. Wrestling's in their blood,
Sure.
literally, with the bloodline and Rikishi and everything. So, like, yeah, I'm not mad. Like, look how popular he is. If he's merch moving, if he's coming out to reactions like that, you know what? I'm not the biggest fan of, like, his in-ring, but at the same time, the guy has clearly been improving. He's been shooting in the gym. He's been working at it. Like, you know, Poisonrana is our favorite wrestling move. I'm pretty sure he hit one in the Rumble. So he's stepping it up. He's doing some good stuff. And I thought the match with Gunther, like, it had some good stuff in it. And if we're going back to that, yeah, maybe that actually won't be one of the main events, but I feel like that will be one of the big marquee matches. I feel like we have so much other stuff going on, whether it's Punk, Seth, Roman, Cena, and Cody. If we go to that, like, who cares? They're busy with those things. This is a good way to get, like, help boost this guy. Look, like, reward him for being so over with, like, all the audiences. Like, that clip of him and Travis Scott was everywhere from the Raw Netflix debut, and it was him, and he looked like a complete badass. And every time you tune in, you'd feel like this is the guy. Like, look at Daniel Bryan that year, where people just cheered and cheered and cheered him. Why all of a sudden is, like, so many, like, people against what we usually, like, fought for? When Kofi all of a sudden got, like, a big push, Kofi Mania, it's like, no, strike while the iron is hot. We usually, like, are super supportive. You could hear some boos, and I definitely see the discourse online and everything, but that's just a small community of people who are paying money and going to these shows. So I think it's the right decision, because Cena's won the Rumble before, like, twice, like this. Just why not, like, go with this?
And also, when it, like, say Punk's story, his story is, it's not necessarily even a title. It's his last goal is to main event a WrestleMania, and Cena's goal is to main event his last WrestleMania. You can stretch that story out for both of them. Like, are they gonna achieve this goal this year? And I just thought Jay's promo yesterday, like, just came across so real. Like, I liked how sort of stuttery he was, and, like, how it wasn't just a smooth promo, because it made him seem real. And I think Gunther is, it kind of sucks for Gunther that he's gonna most likely lose 2 WrestleManias in a row, but I think he's going to be a great foil for Jay. And if they pick the right song, just think this video package for Jey Uso, like, having them as the tag team guys, having, you know, when they were fighting the Ascension in NXT, not all of you were there then. we were, you know, all the way back then, having clips like, you know, the Roman calling Jay Jimmy, and he goes, "No, I'm Jay," and does it really matter? Like, all that stuff, like, having them as the tag team guys, having them as undistinguishable to now. I think it's such a great story to tell, and why not strike while the iron's hot?
Like, the guy is getting, he looks like in an incredible shape. He's got the whole everything down, the entrance, the everything. Like, even the wrestling he's not like he's like that bad. Like, come on, there's so many worse people than him.
Yeah.
Like, think, like, he's considered one of the best tag team wrestlers. It's like, and he's the better wrestler.
And I think so much of the WWE style as well is the story you tell in the ring. It's not necessarily the moves, you know?
Yeah.
Like, I like moves as well. Moves are cool, but that, especially WrestleMania, it's crafting stories and moments and things. So, and I said, it's not like this guy is dog shit in the ring.
Yeah.
He's a good wrestler. Is he Kenny Omega? No, but, like, I think he's perfectly fine for this role. And
like, I'm not saying, you know, we need to support all Nepo babies, but, like, he's Rikishi's kid. So, like, you know what? Rikishi never won the world title, and Rikishi's an icon. Is he in the Hall of Fame yet?
Yes,
he should. He should be. So, like, you know what? Rikishi never got the big one, but, like, even if Jay doesn't win at WrestleMania, like, this is a great story and a great, you know, thing. He should, at this point, he just definitely should. Yeah. They're doing Backlash in Paris? I think
they've not announced Backlash yet. I don't think.
Oh, sorry. Okay, I thought they had announced Backlash.
They've announced Clash in Paris.
Oh, that's where it is. Right. I was gonna say Gunther could, like, win it back, and Gunther could go on to feud for the other title eventually. Like, there's a few different options. But like, man, you watch that Royal Rumble, you watch the Raw right after, like he feels like a really big deal. And if he's moving merch and making money, then yeah, absolutely. Like it makes a lot of sense. You can't deny that he's over. Like the song, he was Kanye West, Jay-Z playing that song over and over, where the crowd were like, no, you're not done yet. Play it again. So good for him. Other things I caught from Raw while we're on the topic, Charlotte, I think that was Charlotte, with Rhea, and she's calling her shots. She said she was going to show up on NXT. We will talk about her appearance on NXT tonight. But what do you make of it? Do you think that this is just kind of a bit of a swerve for right now, because the eventual match will be Charlotte and Tiffany?
Yeah, I'm not entirely sure. I don't think she's going for the NXT women's title.
What? No.
But I think there's certainly a story there with Rhea Ripley. They're one apiece, and we know that match is good. Like, and completing the trilogy, if it's not this year, I see them doing that at a WrestleMania or Part 3 at some point. Tiffany, yeah, we'll have to see, like, on SmackDown, like how is the chemistry there? Like, does it work? We've been saying for a long time we think that should be the match, but I don't know. We might see them in the ring with each other and talking, and it just doesn't click or something. But I do still think Tiffany is the match. I think we had Rhea costing Io the match on Monday, on last night. I can see Io winning maybe a last chance match, and then you've started this, like, planting the seeds there for Rhea and Io, which feels fresh. And
that's what I would go. Yeah, Io versus Rhea at Mania, which is a great match we could get, and then Tiffany versus Charlotte. Like, those are two solid women's matches that you could, like, right away with the tease on Raw this week with Io and her. Like, I think that's the direction, the end game of this story for that title, at least right now. And Tiffany Charlotte, the battle of the blonde buff Barbies, just writes itself. And Tiffany would be babyface, because I don't know what Charlotte was trying to be, heel or face. I can't really tell. Definitely not a babyface.
It's interesting, because I felt last night, I think she came out with the intentions of cutting a babyface promo, but being Charlotte Flair and having been doing this long enough, she knows she gets her boos, and I think she was ready for them. And maybe there were a few more boos than she was expecting. So there was that, but she pretty much cut a babyface promo, even though she was being booed, and she was like, "Oh, you can boo me, I still love you." But then I felt tonight she came out thinking she was going to get booed, but it's a big star returning to NXT, so they will cheer you anyway. And she was playing more of the heel character with this crowd cheering her. So it felt very odd, both appearances. But I feel the goal would be anyway for Charlotte to be a heel. It makes so much more sense. We had that weird feeling a couple of years, what was it, WrestleMania 39, Rhea and Charlotte, when Rhea was a heel but was insanely popular, and Charlotte was a babyface and very unpopular, and the crowd picked Rhea that night. And I think they're going to pick Tiffany anyway, so let's just go with that. Let's just move. You've got 2 months to get there, but let's speed up the process a little bit, and by post-chamber, Charlotte should be a full-fledged heel and Tiffany a full-blown babyface. So we'll get away from this murkiness, I think.
Yeah, Charlotte just, everyone boos her. Like, so you might as well make her the heel. Like, yeah. And that pantsuit she was wearing reminded me of some 80s music video briefly. I don't know what it was, like the oversized suit. I don't know. But also saw on TMZ that Charlotte and Andrade have called it quits. It seems like a divorce. So just like she's going for her father's title reigns, she's also going for those divorces too, I think, up there. But wish them the best. How long until Andrade starts Twitter fingers saying I hate WWE?
I know.
Tony Khan's looking at his missed calls right now, like, not this time, pal. Sorry. Another thing that Raw had my attention. Raw had my full attention. I'll tell you why. Because for the first time ever, CM Punk and Sami Zayn, El Generico, fought 1-on-1. So you're damn right I was seated watching that. I don't think it got to like maybe any PLE level of like a match. I think that these two are most definitely capable of. I think they were holding back a hell of a lot in this match, but CM Punk beating Sami Zayn to advance in the Elimination Chamber in Toronto. So now we know it's Cena and Punk that will be inside these pods for the Chamber, which is pretty cool. But after the match, Kevin Owens attacked him.
I just want to talk about the match because I
sure.
genuinely really enjoyed it, and I'm really enjoying Punk's run. He said at the press conference of what was the event at the end of last year when he beat Bad Blood, was it, or something? One of the pressers. He said, like, I feel like I'm finally getting wrestling as my body's breaking down on me. And I've really been enjoying this style he's been working, where obviously we know the last few years he's had these injuries, but he's kind of doing the Bryan Danielson where he makes you think during the match, oh shit, his arm has exploded again, or this has happened. And for me, it's adding a great drama to his matches. And I think he seemed like, I find him very believable in, like, it feels like a fight when he's in these matches, which I really like. And I liked the kind of him not being afraid of healing it up against Sami Zayn. And I thought that added a nice wrinkle to it. And I think as much as, you know, Punk is a big babyface in WWE and his matches are very rare, especially on free TV. We've only had the one, and it was the Netflix debut. So they do feel special. And I think to work this match where you're still fully rooting for Sami Zayn against Punk, I thought was quite an achievement. I really got into it. I was disappointed to see Sami lose, but as you'll go on, the post-match makes me very excited for other things that are going to happen.
Yeah, like, you know what, like, I agree with you on, like, he definitely, like, I don't know. I was let down with the match, but it's Sami Zayn versus CM Punk in 2025. I was like, oh, that was it. I was like, kind of like, oh man, definitely people have like thought of, hey, what if these two ever mixed it up, especially like years and years ago. So I was like I feel like his style is a little toned down. He's a little bit more like subdued. And like you said, he's older now.
He's wrestling like a man of his age would fight. That's what I like about it. I don't want to see this guy trying to do flips and leaps and things like that. I feel both of them are fighting how people of their age would fight. And that's not to say they're like slow and shitty, but I don't know. I think they're wrestling a really believable style, which I'd rather see that than attempting to do things that they're not capable of doing. Like I really enjoyed the storytelling in this match, and I found that with the Seth match as well previously.
Yeah, like, see, both of those matches, I thought, like, I was kind of disappointed after watching them. Like both the Raw debut against Seth and this one, where I'm like, like, I know that you're way more like story there, but I don't know, maybe that's just me. But it did lead to Kevin Owens package pile driving his former friend. They could go back and forth. Another package pile driver in WWE. And I mean, is this setting up what we think it might be setting up for here in our great country of Canada? Are we getting Sami versus Kevin at Elimination Chamber?
I think so. And it's funny because we didn't really... We were talking about what we think our Mania matches and all that. And we were thinking a few weeks ago, oh, you could do Sami and Kevin at Mania. We were even saying, hey, could it be for the title at Mania? Mm-hmm. And we're kind of forgetting these are the two biggest Canadian stars that this company have had for a long time. And this is the biggest show in Canada since 2002. Wouldn't you want your two biggest Canadian stars in the big stadium show in Canada? It makes a whole lot of sense. So as soon as the attack happened, I was like, oh yeah, that makes sense. That's the match.
Absolutely.
And that's awesome. And that for me sells this show. I mean, think like they always have great matches, but doing it in the Rogers Center in Canada, like I think that's awesome. And I assume whether it's on that show or the Raw after or whatever, I assume we're going to Randy and Kevin at Mania. Yeah. Because Randy's got to come back at some point, and And yeah, Randy's going to have a WrestleMania match, and the Kevin Owens thing is a loose end. But to do this match in Toronto, I think is awesome, and I can't wait for that.
It's definitely a draw for me. Like, personally, like, I've seen these guys wrestle. I've seen these guys wrestle outside of WWE. Don't think I've ever seen them live in person face each other, at least in my knowledge.
The only thing I was at the Dallas show in 32 where they were in the ladder match. So
yeah,
it was a multi-man, but that was the only time I think I've seen them.
You kind of said it, like, what would make a good stadium pop is Randy Orton returning in the match. I would do some sort of unsanctioned match, knowing both of these guys, their history and everything. But if I could nitpick and, like, you know, fantasy book this, I want these two going out there and doing anything crazy possible, and then, you know, Randy come in for the save or something like that. But yeah, on top of John Cena retiring last time wrestling in Toronto, as they're promoting this heavily with, I think this is a big addition if we're going to start promoting Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn for the Sky Dome. Yes, they're not Toronto, and sometimes Torontonians and people from Quebec, we don't always get along, but we put our differences aside for wrestling, and we support these Canadian boys. So yeah, this is like, I have to go now if this is the match added to this show. So I'm definitely excited about that. I forgot to mention, I also really enjoyed CM Punk got a huge pop out of me when he said, what are you going to do about it, Ska Boy? As he's beating him up from the Punk and the Ska Punk connection there. Yeah, great stuff. That would be their tag name, Ska Punk. Would be fantastic. Yeah, I'm trying to think of anything else there, because that was for Monday Night Raw, and like that definitely sets up some things for Chamber. And again, like, that's in a few weeks here in our neck of the woods, and we're getting excited with that happening. Like, already, I think I'm sold. Let's go. I don't know what else. What else would you add to that?
I only think we're probably only going to have 4 matches. I think
2 Chambers
last year, 2 Chambers, KO and Sammy, and then probably a women's match.
No Cody in Canada. Wow.
I don't know. But I'd like more. I'd like 5 matches. I just think the fact the Rumble was that, and I'm pretty sure the Perth show last year was 4. I feel we could get 5. Like, 5 would be nice. But
yeah.
I don't see Cody defending the title now until Mania. And they're kind of, I don't know if it's legit or not, but they're selling he's got a bit of a foot injury or something. And so I think that could keep him off until Mania. And also selling the Roman injury as well. I did like the bit before Punk and Sammy with Seth, kind of in a kind of heelish way, sort of willing Sammy to win, be like, oh, you're better than him and stuff. But obviously for kind of selfish reasons there. I like that element to it as well. Yeah,
no, absolutely. We have some other things to talk about before NXT, but I'm going to throw one more plug out there. If you're listening, you like what you hear, like I said, subscribe to Poisonrana. Well, we also have a patreon.com/Poisonrana, $5 to become a friend, get a whole month's access, $5 a month. And you get all our shows, including our last week's review of the Royal Rumble 2002, where we discuss our love for Undertaker beating the piss out of Maven and Scotty 2 Hotty in a classic 2002 pay-per-view, also featuring Flair versus Vince in a street fight, Jericho versus The Rock for the undisputed title, and so much more. This was a very fun review. Any Royal Rumble review, any Rumble review is just great. This one I haven't watched as much as some of the other ones, so this made for a very fun chat. Also on the Patreon, we did episode 5 of The Champ Is Here. That is out. Another Was Next, where we're on the road to the first ever takeover for you NXT heads. That is definitely a show up your alley. But a show every once in a while, we have a show called Up Yours. We recently did a double shot of Black Mirror from Netflix with Cactus Chris, who selected this. Our family member, World Champ patrons, select stuff. And it's come to that time of the year where we go to our friends, our family. Brandon from New Jersey, who has made his pick. And I know what you're all thinking. If you know, you know. Brandon from New Jersey he has got an eclectic taste when it comes to media and movies and wrestling and everything. So he has selected something that kind of fits our Patreon, because it just seems like once a year, we at least have to talk about Eric Roberts at least once. So we are looking at the best of the best. Yeah. I've never seen this movie, but I've heard about it so much that I'm very excited. Eric Roberts, Chris Penn, James Earl Jones. Oh boy. I don't know what this is on. It's from 1989. Martial arts drama in which a misfit team of American kickboxers must undergo rigorous training for an all-important contest against a ruthless Korean team.
Honestly, Brandon had me when he told me Eric Roberts is in it and he has long hair. And I was like, sure, let's do it.
This is going to make for a great review. This will be out later on our Patreon with Brandon from New Jersey joining us for the whole show. It's going to be a mess. It's going to be a riot. It's going to be the best of the best is what that will. So join us. You get all these shows. It's $5. Plus, we're working on some great stuff this month leading up to Chamber here. So more on that in the coming months. Like I said, you got to give us a follow at Poisonrana Pod on Instagram. Come on. We're shy of 600 followers ever since we had to create our new Insta. So let's bump those numbers up. Give us a follow on our Insta. We appreciate you.
Absolutely.
We appreciate. Now, I also, before NXT, we have to talk about someone else that we appreciate. In fact, we'd like to dedicate this show to a very special person.
Yes.
It's not
Back
the hand
in
you're dealt.
2019, a certain Brendan Vink joined the Performance Center. Then the pandemic hit. He got drafted to Raw, had a tag team with Shane Thorne, and it was pretty much forgotten. But NXT 2.0 started, and he came over as the poker player. Everyone's favorite 2.0 gimmick. Oh, how we laughed, how he cried at Duke Hudson in his gold Aladdin vest. He'd play poker. He'd win poker until a certain Mr. Cameron Grimes would come over and wipe that smile off his face. Not only did Cameron Grimes wipe that smile off his face, but he took the hair from his head in a hair versus hair match.
Shit, yeah, he did.
That drove to a certain Duke Hudson wearing this wonderful blonde wig. Yes, he looked fantastic. But then that wasn't it. He was the lowest of the low when he met a Mr. Andre Chase and joined. Oh, well, first he met Indy Hartwell, didn't he? He rekindled that.
They kissed a few times, I think.
They kissed a few times. He was with Persia Pirotta. That was a thing. He even had this cowboy hat in Dallas. But yes, Andre Chase picked him up from the dirt and made him join Chase U. And he took this university to the highest of heights. He became the MVP of the university. And then they won the NXT Tag Team Championship. But it is with regret that we now have to pour one out for Duke Hudson, the MVP of Chase U, the MVP of NXT, and the MVP of our hearts. We love you, Duke. Till next time.
This one's for you, Duke. I'll always remember you, Duke Hudson. I was gonna say it's not the it's not the hand you're dealt, but it's how you play your cards. And Duke, as an MVP, you taught us a whole lot in NXT. So here at upNXT, we pour one out for the blonde wigs and the Aladdin vest and
they released him just before Vegas.
You idiots. Triple H, you were on such a good streak, my bro. You were like, look at you. You were on I mean, some people might not agree with Jey Uso winning the Rumble, but like, look at you. You were making the people happy, and then you do something so irredeemable. Like, you, Triple H, what are you doing? Not a main roster star. Come on. Duke Hudson deserved way better. So here at upNXT, with all sincerity, we're sending out love to Duke Hudson. Wow. Brendan Vink, right? I think maybe that's what he'll go back to. We love you, Duke Hudson, and you've brought us so much entertainment over the years. I hope somewhere deep in your closet you have that golden vest, because Vegas is around the corner, and maybe you won't see him at a WWE NXT show, but I mean, maybe he'll be wrestling somewhere else. I don't know. If I was to be a betting man, which if you're going to Vegas, put some money down, maybe you'll get to see him. But we hope
genuinely
to see him
had
soon.
One of my favorite NXT matches last year in Toronto. The Heatwave tag
Absolutely.
match with Jacy
100%.
versus Braxian was awesome. I think they really found something when he was in Chase U, and it's a shame they never tried this act on the main roster.
Everything that he was given, like, he made it work, and he's one of those people that like ran with it. Like the Chase U stuff, we were beaten into submission with it, but then like he ended up legit being like a highlight. Him and Andre Chase bouncing off each other. Like, if you were to strip away the gimmick of a university and just have them maybe as like an odd pairing or just a normal team, and the way their chemistry was, where like they would sometimes swear and get hyped up and everything, I think it could have worked. And I think he was like a highlight of NXT this past year. You mentioned it here in Toronto at Heatwave. They stole the show, and he was in that match. And like he's had some great tag team matches, and he's totally improved and stepped up. So we've been in his corner for quite a while, and that we were here when he was gambling. We were doing shows when he was the poker player and everything. So we hope he lands on his feet very soon. He has posted on social media Wrestling with Integrity, where he's kind of interviewing himself in a little clip, but he said more to come. So I'm sure he had this one waiting in the chamber for when the kind of news broke about his release. But if you know us, we are very bummed about Duke Hudson. So pour one out for Duke. Yes. Gone but not forgotten. Duke, we love you, Duke, so much. Just seeing all the pictures of him in that vest.
Yeah, he had quite the run, didn't he?
He was there for a while. He was there for like 6 years.
Yeah, 5-6
Holy.
years. Yeah.
Duke, I want to talk to Duke. I would love to have him on to talk about Duke and his time in NXT, but maybe one day. What a true underrated. And I hope I see him in wrestling. I see, you could see him in TNA. You could see him elsewhere. Like, he was funny. He was handed a lot of shit, and he turned it into, chicken salad. So I hope we get to see him again soon. But
yes,
it put me in a bad mood, to be honest, when I read that. I was pretty. I read it last night. I think it was Fightful that put that out, that like that WWE had let him go in late January. So I was watching I've been watching White Lotus, and I'm like watching like the last episode, so I'm like completely caught up, and like as I clicked play on it, I just like looked at my phone and saw that, and I was like, man, I like threw my phone. I think I then picked it up. I texted you. I was like fucking furious. Like there's not a lot of things in NXT this past year that have really like, stolen the show, and this guy was doing that, and then they let him go. So, and like wasn't his last moment when Ridge had just killed Andre Chase and Chase U was no more? Like he really think about that Ridge, university, didn't he? Ridge comes in and destroys one of the most popular story arcs, and then look what Ridge is doing, like fucking dog shit. So come on, man. Bullshit. Yeah. Boo. Triple H, your Hall of Fame. Yeah. Revoked. Give that back. And wait another year. So who else are you going to release, huh? Andre Chase? Is that what's next?
Oh, God, no.
What's he doing lately, right? Like,
we need Thea to return as well. I'm getting worried.
Yeah. Remember, your favorite wrestlers, they're not safe. I mean, they are, but you know what I mean.
Well, shall we get into some NXT?
I think so. Let's talk about some NXT.
Let's do it. NXT from February the 4th, 2025. And we're kicking things off right away with Jacy Jayne taking on Stephanie Vaquer, hot off her appearance at the Royal Rumble.
Mm-hmm. Very nice.
Both come out and kind of wearing the same gear here. They're both in like black and dark green, which I thought was kind of weird. They should have maybe liaised here. But and it's Stephanie just grinding down Jacy. Jacy goes for her senton, but Stephanie kind of rolls out the way and does she have a name for this yet? The like head scissor stomp thing, the stomp the mat. You're
talking about kind of thing. Booker T's favorite move? Is that what you're talking about? Yeah, the face smash, the face buster, or the one where Booker goes right before Booker was doing that, as per usual. Vic Joseph, we love Vic Joseph. Maybe he's been hearing us say this every week or hearing me say this, but Vic started the show by saying, "Oh, Booker, you're already on one tonight."
Oh yeah,
which we know he always is.
So Stephanie's got the advantage as the ref is distracted by Jasmine Nix. Fallon Henley pulls Stephanie off the apron, allowing Jacy to hit a running PK to the face. After the break, Vic is talking about Book's accolades, how he has over 25 championships. And Booker says, no, I have over 35 championships, which I did check, and he is correct. Vaquer is then bouncing on the ropes, kind of doing the lucha, sort of jumping from the top rope to the second rope when Jacy knocks her off. But Stephanie gets back into it, hits the cheeky Nando's kick, and then a superplex followed by the meaty aura. And then Jacy rolls through and delivers this running knee to the face for a near fall here. Jacy then goes for the rolling elbow, counted into a DDT from Vaquer, follows up with the tiger feint kick or the 619, a springboard high cross, 1-2, and right in front of the referee, Jasmine Nix gets in the ring, breaks up the pin, and the referee doesn't call for the DQ. The commentary are like, well, she hit Jacy there to break it up, not Vaquer. The referee seems to be letting it go, so sure. There's then a headbutt from Vaquer to Nix, and then she hits the SVB, the butterfly backbreaker to Jacy for the win. But not a bad match, but just very strange finish here.
Oh, yeah. Very weird finish. Like, if this were to happen on a different show, on a different company, the internet would be ripping it apart. But it felt very weird. In fact, I had to rewind it to make sure I didn't miss something that happened. But no, it was just the ref being like, oh, don't know what to do here because you kind of, your hand was in the cookie jar kind of thing. We need Jimmy Corderas to get on this case to see what really happened because, I don't know.
I mean, you do see sometimes in sport, like in football, if there's like a foul, but the player is still like on for the goal, they'll just let them play the advantage, right? Like, because you could foul someone and then it's like,
I don't know if that happens in wrestling. Think of years of wrestling.
It's referee's discretion, right? I guess.
Oh,
but it's just, there hasn't been a precedent set for this. We reviewed something last week where someone just getting in the ring caused the disqualification and they didn't even touch anyone. This was right in front of the referee. It was very weird.
Yeah. I didn't like this finish. I also just really hate her finisher. It doesn't even look like it to move.
She's so good, but this is just a weird move, and it doesn't look very devastating. And yeah, I agree.
Like I'm a very big fan of Vaquer. I think she's fantastic. She could be one of the biggest stars that they got in the near future, like when she's on the main roster. But the one gripe is this, like, of all the moves she hits, this looks like the least devastating, just the absolute shits. It's like barely backbreaker is what it is. Like all her other moves could be the finisher there. But other than that, so this, like, there was some good stuff in it. I think Jacy has improved. I think Vaquer is coming in already, like, just an amazing in-ring worker. It was a shame with whatever happened with the referee and Nix and everything. It was kind of a bit of a blunder, or a bit of a, like, kind of ruins the match because it's like, oh, you just remember that from it. But things happen and you can never, we just move on from it. Like I'm never going to be like, oh, look at, but there has been a few times lately with the refs, like in all like wrestling. So I'm wondering what actually happened there. But anyways, I think Stephanie versus Fallon, which is like what this is like hyping up and leading to, will be a excellent match at Vengeance Day.
Me too. And yeah, I agree with Jacy. I think she's improved a lot. I think she's one of the solid veterans in NXT now. I do worry kind of what's next. Like, we see Duke being released after 5 years. Jacy's been there a pretty long time as well. And I'd, whether it's as this act moving up or something, I'd like to see her get a shot at the main roster at some point, because I don't see her ceiling any higher than this in NXT. And maybe that's what her role will be, just like more of a veteran there to help people. But I do think she's good. So we go on after this match to, we see Zaria and Sol Ruca backstage in the locker room. And Zaria is just chatting shit to Lash and Jakara. She's like, hey, you came up short last week against Bianca and Naomi. And then Lash, you came up short at the Royal Rumble. You didn't even eliminate anyone. And you see Sol looking a little awkward about it and trying to sort of calm things down. And she's like, no, you had the chance to bring the titles to NXT and you didn't. And Lash is like, well, it's all very good for you to say when you were just sitting at home watching. And then Tatum, Paxley, and Gigi Dolin interfere, and they say, hey, look, like, it's not they were against anyone. They were against Bianca and Naomi. They're great. And Gigi's like, yeah, well, you haven't stepped up to anyone either. So they're all going at Zaria, and this does set up a match later in the evening for Zaria and Sol Ruca versus Gigi and Tatum.
I like Zaria saying that, and I like Sol Ruca. Like, again, this is going in the direction where clearly these two will eventually become like enemies, because Sol Ruca is noticing Zaria's got a little bit of an edge to her, like calling out these two for like, hey, you guys dropped the ball. Like, you could have brought these titles back. Look how excited everyone was last week and the week before, and you ruined it essentially. So I kind of like that, because this will lead to like the eventual feud between Sol Ruca and Zaria. But just Sol Ruca in the background with the facial reactions reminds me of like anytime you have like a group of people and someone says something to offend someone else, and then one person's like in the background reacting like, oh wait, what did she just say? Oh no. And like trying to be peacekeeper and everything. So it's a little interesting, and it does just make me go, why didn't we just bring the titles here or anything? But I guess maybe we will still. I don't know what that kind of tease later on is about with the women's something, but yeah.
We go to we first get the Roxanne Perez spotlight. We get a little spotlight of every NXT woman who was in the Royal Rumble, and just showing how she broke the record and was in the longest amount of time.
Yeah, I love this. It's like, and look at the Royal Rumble. NXT was on spotlight. We had Roxanne Perez, Stephanie Vaquer, Giulia, and no men. Nope, sorry. No, none for you, Glenn Coco. Nope, no men in the Royal Rumble. Sorry, we didn't have any room for you guys there. But Roxanne really did kill it there. So I did love that.
And then we get an interview with Oba Femi, who says tonight he will show that Theory and Waller will see that they don't deserve to be in the ring with me. And he's asked about Trick Williams, and he says, I don't owe Trick a single thing, and I'll see him out there tonight. So kind of alluding that they haven't chatted to each other at all as they're going into this tag match. We go forward to Lexis King, who's in the ring, and we know he's full on heel again now, because he's got that beard all painted on his face.
You just got to look at his face and you go, oh yeah, he's a heel. Yeah, he's back to being a full on heel. Not as a big of a heel as that fucking guy in the PC who's always boo. Yeah. Like, dude, go. Why are you going to that show? Stop it.
Yeah,
stop so going. Annoying. And then he's trying to get other people to do it, and then other people are telling him to shut up. But then Lexis King thinks they're yelling at him to shut up. It's just annoying. It's ruining the show. Yeah. Like, whoever that we've talked about these people, boo. They just continue the tone of a boo sound.
Yeah, it sounds
no matter what. Yeah, it's
I'd tell him where to go if I was
like,
next to him.
Like, where's security at this point? Like, it's very this arena that they do, the PC here, is very small. So like, if you're there and anything you say will be picked up on the microphone, and this guy knows it, so he's just booing all the time, and it's very annoying.
Lexis says how he wanted to come out and be humble, but how can you be humble when you're on the road to be the greatest superstar in wrestling history? And he says there are a lot of people and legends back there, including William Regal, who tried to show me who I really am. And then goes on about Ryan Leaf, who's one of the biggest busts in the NFL, who came to give him advice. Did we see this? I don't remember this at all.
Was this on TV? I don't know, but is he in the Super Bowl this Sunday?
I don't know, but fuck Ryan Leaf, apparently. So
like a Johnny Manziel situation? I'm not sure.
King goes on to say that he doesn't take advice from anyone, and he's never done well with advice. And the King always plays the beat of his own drum and his own rules, because why wouldn't I? Look at me. I got the looks that kill and the pedigree that will. And you thought I was going to transform and be a submissive beta? Well, the King's blood doesn't run with that of a normie. I was born into this business. I'm a second-generation talent, the son of a psycho. But I never asked for this. I tried everything I could to be anything but my father. I didn't even know him. And I know one thing, and that's that he was a loose cannon and would do anything to win. And he had so much potential, but never reached it. And after all the advice, I felt my best when I was finally my father's son. And now I'm standing here as a champion, as I stay true to who I am. And the truth is that this championship has been mistreated for far too long. And he then goes on to say that he's going to offend the purists out there, because his first proclamation as Heritage Cup champion is he's going to change how this is defended. What's with all these assholes these last week just changing shit? Like, they suddenly get a bit of power and they're like, I'm going to change this, I'm going to change that. And now we're getting rid of these Heritage Cup rules. It's ridiculous.
Imagine the president having a sprayed on beard like this and talking like this guy. Calling
like hair is a crime against humanity as well. Come on, let's be real.
If you were to put this promo from Lexus King into an AI bot that makes it sound like Trump's voice, it would sound like something he would say. Calling all y'all was it submissive beta normies? Yeah.
So he says, gone are the rounds, gone are the cornermen and the time limits, and from now on the cup will be one fall. Winner takes all.
Oh, okay. Hold up a second. Let him cook. Hold on. Whoa. Wait. He's saying no more rounds. We're done with that shit.
He's saying now we've got a third championship, which isn't as important as the others, and it's defended exactly the same as everything else.
No. He's finally gotten rid of these terrible rounds. You know what? I'm happy. Maybe the best thing he's ever done in his entire career is finally get rid of these stupid rounds. I
completely disagree. I think this is what makes this title different to anything else. It now, like, the issue I have with AEW is you've got all these fucking titles that are defended under exactly the same rules. There's no hierarchy of them at all. It's at least the Heritage Cup had something different and added a little bit of variety to the show and had a different style and that kind of thing. If this is just like his gimmick with that,
it's his
fine.
Gimmick. Yeah, it's
but
his
like
gimmick.
If this becomes like the norm with it, I just think it makes it. It's a fucking cup, you know. Like
it was always a cup.
No, but it's just like it's a cup which isn't as important as the North American title. It's not as important, and it's defended under exactly the same rules. Like, get rid of it if you're going to do this.
Yeah, I see this being either like it's only this gimmick with him, or it is a way to ultimately like get rid of it eventually.
I did notice the last few weeks they've been calling it a championship.
Yeah.
And they've not just the cup, they've been calling it like the Heritage Cup Championship. So I wonder if he's going to change this into a belt at all or anything like that. But
so, I mean, to make things even crazier here on NXT is you're like, hey, I'm turning this into a one fall to a finish championship here. And it's my way, my rules, as his intro theme says. And hey, why not shake things up even more? Fandango's music hits. Welcome back to NXT Fandango. Yes, a once chart-topping song. Haven't heard this one in a while.
You know what disappointed me here, though?
No Tyler Breeze? Yeah, I know.
Well, there's that, but I wish they teased it as Lexus King has a mystery opponent.
Right.
And then it's Fandango. Because that was the thing. That was the thing for so long that they tease like some... And you're like, oh, who's it going to be? They've got someone great, and Breezango would show up. But yeah, this was a bit of a shock. So,
oh wait, sorry, this was not Fandango. This was JDC. Huh.
So yes,
is that what I order at Wendy's? I forget now. Oh, is that the JBC? Yeah, sorry, but the JDC. I didn't know that. I didn't even realize he was in Impact. I didn't realize he was in TNA. But I mean, we got to hear the music. The video Titantron said Fandango. It was his old theme, his own Tron. Yeah. It definitely popped me because I was like, wait, what? The only thing was there was no Tyler Breeze, like I said. So Breezango. They used to show up. You were saying like they'd show up in different costumes, right? as they would surprise appearance and everything. But pretty cool to see this guy, Johnny Curtis. I guess that's the J and the C there. But like he was always like fun, and Breezango was a fun team. So this was a bit of a shock and a surprise and a nice one to do the. Remember when the finger thing was the big thing in wrestling?
Oh, yeah.
So yeah, look at him now.
So he comes out to the Fandango music. He says, "Let me introduce myself. I used to get real weird here in NXT, and that music means the world to me." Because, I mean, he hasn't heard it for a while. He goes, "Thank you, guys. They're a welcome back chance." And Lexis says, "Oh, I know who you are. You used to play dress up with Tyler Breeze." And then Fandango goes, "It looks like you had your face spray painted on this morning." And Lexis clarifies, "No, it's painted on." It's like painted on. He says, "The name is JDC, and I am here representing the system for TNA Wrestling." And he says, "The system is always looking for gold, and I wouldn't mind wrapping my lips around this cup and having a drink. And you all know that TNA and WWE have a working agreement. Well, what you don't know is that next week, it's you versus me for the cup." Wow. And Lexis says, "Look, I respect what you're doing there in TNA, but over here, we have a system too, and all I know you as is Fandango. Sorry, no, Fandango." And says, "Next week, we dance." So yes, we're getting JDC, Fandango versus Lexis King in a normal match for the Heritage Cup next week.
Yeah, it's very, very odd. So Brian Pillman's son is challenging Fandango in just a match for the Heritage Cup. That's all what's happening. NXT is wild, y'all. Sorry, just to clarify, if you can help me out here, Davey. When he says he's representing the system, what does he mean by that?
That's
don't say
Brian Myers, Moose, and your favorite Alicia Edwards.
Oh,
and Eddie Edwards, I guess, probably.
Oh, no.
So we're one step closer to having your favorite here on NXT.
Yeah, I'm going to be sick. Might be sick next Tuesday if that's the case. But I hope that we don't get the system on NXT. This might be the only member in the group I like. So Dirty Dango here. But wow. Okay, great.
So we then get a trailer for Tony D'Angelo's new show. I thought this was an NXT skit.
I thought this was a commercial for Fast and Furious, and then I realized I'm watching this on Netflix. They're not promoting
it just felt like it was a skit for the family, but maybe with a slightly better production than NXT is used to.
Slightly. This is CW production we're talking about here. Yeah, this looked like it was going to be a CW Fast and Furious TV show, like spinoff or something.
Called what? Wild Cards?
Wild Cards, yes. So Tony D'Angelo, not in his Italian mafioso voice here in a clip where he's still doing mafia things.
He felt like Tony D for me.
The only thing was his voice was like an American, more just like no, Italian pushing that, where he's just a normal guy. Probably his real voice, to be honest. I don't know. I've never heard of this Wild Cards on CW, but I think it's awesome that we're getting like crossover like this. And someone like him, like I'd say he is a bit of a character wrestler. Like his wrestling is greatly improved. Don't get me wrong, but he comes across as someone who's very like confident and feels very at home in his promos and stuff. So as it cuts to the family watching this trailer on NXT, I think it's Stax who refers to him as Hollywood Don. And I like that a lot. Hey, maybe this guy has a future in Hollywood after or during wrestling. So I know that Hollywood could steal away our wrestlers, but I always like when wrestlers show up in other things and do other things other than wrestling. I like to support.
No, I think you're completely right. I think wild cards is just Tony D's first step to.
Who knows? You never know.
Looks tremendous. Yeah,
I wouldn't. I don't think I'm going to watch this show by any means. Don't get me wrong, but I think it's cool that there's like some synergy there. Like they had promoted CW in the game shows and stuff. So wrestlers are pretty much actors as well. So why not put them in stuff? So maybe he gets killed in the show. That would be crazy.
So we then see the family, and Rizzo's like, "Wow, Don, that looks great. Can't wait to see it."
Give him the Emmy.
And Stack seems a little off, and he's like, so is that what you've been doing when you should have been out with us when we lost our match? And Tony's like, "Yo, what's up?" And he's like, "Yeah, I'm just busting your balls, boss." Tony's like, "Yeah, well, instead of breaking my balls, how about you focus on your match with Ridge tonight?" So yeah, there's still some tension there between Tony D and Stacks.
Yeah, they've been teasing this. I wonder, like, we do get a match announcement for next week. Like, we've been predicting maybe Tony goes up to the main roster without the family, and then maybe they join him later on. Or I hope like there's not just like a straight up breakup between them, like a feud and everything. That would break my heart seeing Stacks and Tony.
Oh, I'd like to see it. I think Tony is heel and Stacks is face.
Because part of me wants to see Stacks not just being an Italian like mobster gimmick. I think there's a bit more for Stacks personally. So maybe that would open that up, or I'm not quite sure.
I don't want to see I think Stacks as a baby face against Tony will work. And I don't think it should be the other way around where it's Stacks turning on Tony. I think whatever's going on with Izzy, it's maybe Tony ditches the family and Izzy takes him to like higher heights, and that's where you get the feud with Stacks, and Rizzo and Izzy can then fight as well, maybe.
Right. First Chase U, now the family. Yeah. What does NXT become?
So we go to our next match. It's Channing, Stacks, Lorenzo taking on Ridge, Holland, and Stacks jumps the bell to attack Ridge immediately. We see Sean Spears, Nico Vance, and Brooks Jensen watching on from the perch. Ridge just starts throwing Stacks around with some big overhead belly-to-belly suplexes. Stacks then jumps off the top, but gets caught by Ridge in a nice trapped arm suplex here. Looked pretty good. And then Izzy Dame comes into the ring to try and distract. This allows Stacks to roll up Ridge for a 2, but he kicks out, and then Ridge hits the Redeemer for the win. And we see Izzy looking disappointed. Tony is looking over at Izzy. Everyone's looking disappointed and shifty. And what's going on? What's going on with Izzy and Tony?
What's going on? Yeah, I thought there was some cool stuff from Stacks. You mentioned that one thing from Ridge, but the flying springboard code breaker move that Stacks has been doing lately, like that move is pretty impressive. He's pretty solid in ring, but he's going up against someone that I find so incredibly boring in Ridge Holland. Like, just like my interest level from just months of watching him wrestle, the second he's announced is just like, oh great, I dread watching him. And I didn't necessarily think too much of this match. They will announce a match. I guess we can kind of bring that up, is because Ridge beat Stacks here, we're getting Ridge versus Tony next week in a steel cage, which is like, okay, maybe that like opens him up to be a bit more like violent and we see a side of something else. But when it comes to Ridge, I am very much over this character. Like, it didn't work the few times they've really tried, and it's in put me to sleep territory for me. And I like Stacks, and he's like an up and coming young talent that, again, if he were to break away from this like gimmick of the mafia family and everything, I'm wondering where else he could land, because I find him pretty good in ring. I follow him on social media. I think he's pretty funny and entertaining and smart. So I'm kind of wondering if he's maybe a bit of a need of a refresh if we're talking about maybe Tony and the family, and possibly losing the title next week to Ridge here as well. So I don't know.
Yeah, I was hoping Stacks would get a little bit more in here, like a few hope spots. I wasn't expecting him to win, but I thought normally they like allow him to have a few things to shine, and they really didn't here. Ridge, like I'm not as low on him as you, but I don't necessarily see a place for him, like where he's going. I don't really see him like being in main feuds on the main roster. I think some of his suplexes look cool. I think he's got a good physique. He has some of that like young Brock Lesnar about him, with just the way he moves and his stature and stuff. And I don't even think he's bad on the mic. Something's not there that doesn't click with me. And I can't really see, like, he's been in this company a long time. If it's not working now, I just don't really know where you go with him.
Give him a gimmick, make him a card dealer, a gambler. Let's go. Have him reform Chase U. I don't know. That was the most interesting he was. But yeah.
We're in the locker room and we see Axiom and Fraser when Josh Briggs and Inamura come in and they go, look, we've been seeing you having all these amazing, fantastic matches, but you keep ducking us, and you're smart because you know if you faced us, it would have been a one-sided ass whooping. And since we beat OTM the other week, we haven't seen them again. And Fraser's like, well, we're already booked this week. We've got a match on Impact against the Nemeth brothers. But if you can find an opponent and beat them and win a match, then we'll talk. I feel for Briggs and Inamura here. They've been like, we've beaten like 3 teams since you've asked us to do this. And you're facing Dolph and Ryan. Like,
I was just distracted of how good Inamura looks in that vest, and Briggs wearing his vest and his chain. Like, look at these guys. Look at this tag team. It looks like we're gonna get this gimmick of them trying to impress the champions to eventually get that match, which maybe is going to be added to Vengeance Day. Like, when we get this match, it should be good. So we will get it eventually. I just love that Fraxium are like, no, sorry, we can't have a match with you because I got to go fight the Nemeth brothers. It's like, oh shit, of course, you got to go do that. That can't give us a match.
So now both Inamura and Josh Briggs go off looking for opponents for next week. We then go to our next match. It's Zaria and Sol Ruca taking on the team of Gigi Dolin and Tatum Paxley. Now they still haven't officially called them Chemical X yet, I don't think.
But
that's what you're calling them.
I mean, they didn't wear the shirts, but they've been posting all the matching stuff, and they've been referring to themselves this way. But yeah.
They're out here with Shotzi. Did you see the poor picture of Shotzi looking sad at the Rumble?
Is this? I saw some reports that Shotzi was taken out to give Alexa Bliss her spot. Yeah. So she was pretty upset.
But there's a photo in the locker room of like the women like getting ready for the Rumble, and she's like sat in the corner on her phone. Like,
poor Shotzi. Like, she's definitely. Oh yeah, I see it here. Yeah, she's definitely like improved and gotten better and she was out with an injury and everything. So that kind of sucks. I think people like her. Like, she comes across like very like different, right? Like, she's got the alternative look going and everything. But I think that kind of works. Like, that speaks to a lot of people with this, like that kind of thing. So I feel for her a little bit, considering like she's kind of stepped up and everything. But here she wasn't wrestling; she was just ringside. But we still got the best entrance in wrestling, so that was okay.
So Sol and Zaria go for a Doomsday device, but Gigi counters it with a Rana. Tatum then applies the spider inside her submission, which was pretty cool looking. It's like a reverse Romero special, like surfboard, but the other way round and pulling on the face.
Yeah, the only thing is it looked like the opponent is pinning you, is the only thing, because she's like holding you up.
Right.
And it's like, why isn't the ref counting there? But still looks cool. It's like the tarantula, but like not in the ropes.
Gigi then hits a reverse senton for a 2 count. Sol tags in Zaria, who comes in with a bunch of big clotheslines, a pump kick to Paxley, German suplexes, and a spear to Gigi, but Paxley breaks up the pin. Paxley and Gigi then come back as they kind of run Sol and Zaria into each other, hit them with tandem enziguris, and then Tatum jumps off the top, but gets caught on the shoulders of Zaria and drops her on top of Gigi, and allowing Sol to hit the Soul Snatcher to Dolin for the win.
The Soul Snatcher must be so difficult to do because I feel like there was a bit of a happened so fast that it was kind of missed, and then Vic and Book were like, hey, that wasn't the prettiest victory, but at least they got the job done kind of thing. And that's definitely how I felt. I think there was some rough stuff in this, but it was pretty short and pretty quick. And Zaria's spear is pretty impressive. The F5 throwing Tatum onto Gigi was pretty cool as well. So again, they're going to go forward with this team, but it will most definitely lead to a feud between Zaria and Soul. I'm assuming.
Yeah, I didn't think a whole lot of the match, to be honest. Gigi just seems to look like she moves in water when she's wrestling. She always seems to be in slow motion. There were quite a few clunky things. And I really think they fumbled Zaria so far. I think she just feels... I hate the presentation. Her debut was cool, but she just seems even the backstage segment, she just seemed like a dick. She doesn't seem scary. She just seemed like a dick. And I get we're going to her and Soul down the line. That makes sense. But I feel like she's lost her mystique for me very quickly. Whereas I think Stephanie and Giulia have really maintained that. And it's obviously they're like, okay, we've got a lot of people we're trying to focus on. So let's focus on Stephanie and Giulia right now. But just having Zaria, Zaria doesn't, on her first, those videos and everything, the kind of Mad Max stuff and her debut, she doesn't seem like the character who should be in these bickering segments backstage. It just feels wrong.
She should just be Goldberg. She should just have matches where she's crushing people. And then...
just quick squash matches on singles. And then until you're ready to put her into a meaningful feud with someone, I think that's what you should have done. So I can't say I've really been enjoying her so far.
You're right. I feel like we're not getting what should be the presentation. She's big and scary and hits big power moves. I think she'll be way more interesting once turned heel. I do think when that does happen, that should be a lot more entertaining. And the stuff with Soul, hopefully, she destroys her essentially is where she goes. So I know what you mean. This wasn't necessarily a great match.
We have an interview with Trick Williams, who says that he hasn't seen Oba all day, but he doesn't need to chat to him because the plan is easy. He'll show everyone why he should have the title shot. And tonight he's dropping both your bitch asses, and Oba, you're getting a receipt too.
Yeah. So Trick, basically, we said last week, we're like, wait, they've announced Oba Femi versus Grayson Waller versus Austin Theory. No, I think we were both saying, do you think they'll switch that match?
Doesn't seem like it now, but yeah.
They're not switching that match,
they're not.
By the way. To get to the end of this episode, sorry, spoilers, that's the match. So, yeah.
Yeah, I really not high on that. I'd even take a singles match between either of those guys rather than the triple threat. It just... very odd. I mean,
very uninteresting. Very and that's not even a knock to those two because I think they've been pretty entertaining. But you're not in this show anymore. Go away. The men's division has been lacking for sure.
It's really a holdout. We'll do Trick and Oba at Stand and Deliver. That makes sense.
I've been over that already. I'm already over that. Who cares at this point about?
But that's the story, right? This is the last stop before
it's not
WrestleMania.
Been a good story. I am very down on this whole the way Oba won the title feels wrong. The way this is all being booked feels just very uninteresting.
It just shows how empty this men's division
shallow
is.
It is. Yeah.
There's no one there. That's why you've got to They clearly don't want to burn through Trick and Oba because that's why we had the triple threat last month. That's why we're not having Trick and Oba this month. So that's got to be the big match they're building for Stand and Deliver for sure.
Still 3 months away, right?
That's 7 weeks.
There's no show in between. That's there might be a big TV special or something, but there's no PLE from NXT before that. No. So
that would be
right. That will be the match. That will be.
But it just shows that they don't have the depth. They've got people who are fine in your North American division or Heritage Cup division, but
I knew. We watch this show every week. We do a show on this show every week, and we know that this men's roster for the past year has been pretty weak. But then Fandango came back to challenge for a title, and if that's not a sign, I don't know what is. Very, very odd. I mean, it makes sense. These are the two big stars. They may have fumbled it with the Eddie Thorpe stuff, but that was their weird way of switching things around so that Trick will be on the chase for Stand and Deliver.
We just did a whole thing for Duke Hudson, that's a story you could do. I'm not saying strap Duke Hudson up, but Chase U's done, and now he's got to focus on being a singles guy. That is a match you could put on this, rather than just going for Waller and Theory, who I don't think are doing the show in Atlanta last week. Cool, have Austin Theory on there, but I can't say that they're shifting tickets. Bayley, maybe there's Bayley fans out there, but who's coming to see Waller or Theory? I like the guys. I think they're good. I think they're funny, but they're not what's getting me in the building.
You know what? Maybe Oba throwing those two guys around could be fun. They're both heels. You want to see them power move. There's going to be big spots where he's slamming both of them at the same time, etc. But I really don't care. It doesn't sound very exciting. It just sounds. We're we're going to those out of the entire roster in WWE. That is where we're going for a main event. At this point, maybe it's not even the main event with the women's title.
Main with the women's, for sure.
I don't know. All I'm saying is this has nothing to do with the fact that we will not be live after Vengeance Day, but we will be live the Sunday. I'll be honest. I'm not. We're gonna do the show the Sunday at 2 p.m. We will not be live after Vengeance Day. The card has nothing to do with it, but it certainly does not make me feel bad that we're not going live after the show. But we will be live after Vengeance Day the Sunday at 2 p.m. So join us for that. But a little housekeeping there.
And we see as Trick's being interviewed, in the screen behind him, there's the kind of TV Vengeance Day with the colored lines, the hacking screen like we saw last week.
Yes, more of the hacker to come. Hopefully not that hacker.
So we go to our women's summit, and we have Bayley come out first, followed by Roxanne, Perez. And as Mike Rome is about to announce Giulia to come out, Roxanne says, "No, first let us talk about my record-breaking performance. 1 hour, 7 minutes, 47 seconds. She says, Bayley, I broke your record from last year. And Bayley says, you didn't even win the match, dude. And
Bayley's gimmick is she's supposed to be like your aunt, right? She's everyone's auntie, because that's what she comes across lately. Your aunt who thinks she's trying to be, cool with she's calling her dude.
So, didn't even win the match, dude. And she goes, no, I didn't, but I did eliminate Giulia. And Rock says, and you, Bayley, you got tired of getting your ass kicked on SmackDown, so you hopped over to Raw and came to my brand to try in the best women's division in wrestling. And Rock says, I want more titles. And says, and I'm fed up of all these women from the past that I used to look up to standing in my way. And she goes on to say that she's going to Raw when Bayley tells her to shut up and says, look, I hope one day you do surpass me and you do 10 times what I did. But do you not understand that I once built this ring with my bare hands? And Dusty Rhodes taught me how to hold a mic in promo class. And Rox goes to talk, but Bayley shoots her down. And Bayley says, Rox, you lost yourself with that title. And she's losing yourself now. And you might even lose your best friend too. And Bayley says, if I don't win that NXT championship, I will be just fine. But will you? I'm like, great, Bayley. Just tell me how much you don't care about this NXT title. And this is when Rock says, when it comes to that championship, I have no friends, no mentors, and no equals. And I will win the NXT championship, then go to Raw and win that championship. And maybe I'll even go to SmackDown. And when I vacate the NXT Women's Championship, Cora Jade can finally win a title. Now, before we go on, Rox confirmed she's going to the main roster, and then twice here mentioned Raw. So, like, do you see this feud continuing on Raw, Bayley and Rox? And could that even be a Mania match?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's what we can schedule Bayley into. Like, you slot that into giving Roxanne her first WrestleMania after a crazy big appearance at the Rumble. Like, yeah, she came runner-up. She got thrown out last. So I think that's a great way to kind of, integrate some NXT talent and everything. Like, she's done here. She's had everything. She was the biggest star we had here, putting on the best stuff. So, like, it makes sense. She mentioned going to Raw, and then later on mentions that I'll take the title to Raw. So, like, that's twice. I do imagine that we get Bayley versus Roxanne at WrestleMania. I think that's pretty cool. I wasn't too high on Bayley. Just always comes across, like I said, like, so, like, boring. Like, she has something that's, like, missing from, I can't quite figure it out, but she just, like, her kind of doing the Danielson, like, I don't even really want the title. I don't care about it, really. I'm just here to, like, fuck it. I love NXT.
At least Danielson doesn't say that on TV.
Yeah,
he says that in interviews. Bayley here, I know what she was getting at. She was like, oh, that title's making you crazy and stuff, and I'm able to pick myself up when I lose it. But the way it was worded was just like, if I don't win it, it's fine. Whatever. I'll be on Raw the next day. It's cool.
So that's weird because also
what you want to hear, right?
And same with Roxanne as well is basically like, I'm leaving. So it's like, fuck, we don't even really want to see either.
But at least she's doing it as a heel. I'm going to win this title. Then she said the same last year against Lyra. She was like, I'll still be champion, and then I'll vacate it because I'm onto better things. Like, it fits her. But there's no doubt in my mind who's winning this match. Unless there is a surprise and it's for the NXT title at Mania. But that being said, I do like the idea that this feud is going to go from NXT to main roster to Mania. I can't recall if we've seen anything like that before. We've had kind of call-ups and they've been like featured prominently right away. But I like this sort of gradual like switch over of the two brands, if that is the way they're going. And I expect it is, because I imagine Bayley will be on WrestleMania. She won the title at last year's. Like, she'll be on the card, and Roxanne makes a whole lot of sense, and they're clearly high up on her. And I think by the talks, they've got plans for her on the main roster, so why not go for it?
Yeah, absolutely. Like, she'll be a big star. I think. I mean, I think she gained a lot of people from Royal Rumble, like, right? Like, there's a lot of people who watch that are like, wait, sorry, who is this? And then you watch and you're like, oh, hey, she's pretty impressive. And then to have her lose only to Charlotte, like, that's a big deal, I thought. So that definitely is her call up, and I could see her at WrestleMania. But then Giulia comes out.
Yes, Giulia comes out and says, Rox, you are nothing without a title. Bayley, I will beat you too. And at Vengeance Day, one of you will survive the beautiful madness. And that's when Charlotte Flair's theme hits. Ooh. And Charlotte comes out and says, Mama's home. NXT will always be my home. And do you remember what happened last time I won the Royal Rumble? I came to NXT and became women's champion. And Roxanne, 1 hour, 7 minutes, 47 seconds. I'm impressed and proud of you. But if you're a champion by the time it's WrestleMania, you will be runner-up again. Giulia, the hype is real, and I respect you and wish I could be in that ring and shake your hand. You're the champ of the greatest women's division in the world, but I'm better. And Bayley, and she throws up the four horsewomen, and she says, whichever title I choose, I will walk out champion. And then Cora Jade runs in the ring and attacks everyone with her stick and even swings at Rox, who gets out the ring and looks kind of surprised that Cora went for her here. But yeah, I felt this promo from Charlotte, I kind of mentioned at the top, was her trying to be heelish, but this crowd were just like, hey, Charlotte.
Hey, it's Charlotte. Yeah, definitely. Like, with the history of NXT and everything, right? Like, look, most know about the four horsewomen, but only real ones truly know about the BFFs. So never forget. I think that was interesting that Raw, like, right away she's booed, but then NXT, I mean, there's only like 100 people in this thing. So
she even came. She was like, "Last time I came here and I won the title," as in like, you know, this big roster star came down,
and we're like,
"Woo!" They're like,
"Yeah, yeah." Like, why was she here? Really, not like she's not going to be involved with this title. I can't see her really being involved with NXT going forward into WrestleMania. Like, she shouldn't be. She should be busy with other things. But again, they're like slow burning this because we got a lot of time to eventually like get to that matchup build with her.
I like it though, and they've really been pushing the last few months. NXT is the best women's roster in the world, so it kind of validates that by having the winner kind of at least assess the options. I like it. I think it makes NXT feel a bit bigger, that she's even like contemplating it or whatever.
And like, so Charlotte versus Tiffany at WrestleMania, Roxanne going up to the main roster. She's like planting the seeds with Giulia, like, hey, one day, you know, we'll wrestle as well. So that's something that like sets up for the future. Sure.
We go backstage and see Ethan Page and Javon Evans, and Ava is between them and basically said, look, we agreed to no physicality. We're just talking here. And Ethan says, yep, the only reason I'm not smacking him in the face is because I made a promise to the final boss. And Ava says, Javon, look, you haven't been cleared. I told you to stay at home and you came back last week when you're injured, and therefore I'm going to have to suspend you. And Ethan tells her, no, don't suspend him, boss, but, you know, punish him by giving him a match with me. And Javon wants the match, and Ava agrees and says, Javon, if you're cleared, it's happening at Vengeance Day.
Yes. No word of the unsanctioned gimmick that we think should be added to this. I mean, that would have made a whole lot of sense here. I was waiting for it. Like,
yeah.
And no, we're just like, yeah, we'll wait till you're cleared. But like the guy's jaws wired shut still. So right down through the wire, I think we're getting this match. They showed the graphic already, really. So you could probably bet that we will get Javon versus Page at Vengeance Day. And I think that could be really good.
Yeah, I think it could be both good for both of them. Like Ethan Page hasn't had the best in-ring run in NXT yet, but if they can bring the violence a little bit more in this one, and I think Javon will be great for Page to just throw around as well. I think it could be pretty good.
Yeah, absolutely.
We then see Hank and Tank talking to Briggs and Inamura, perhaps talking about a possible match for next week, when Ridge Holland approaches Tony and the family, and he says, you know, if I had a true match, I will take that title. And Tony's like, what are you talking about, a true match? He goes, your friend, Izzy, got involved. I don't trust any of you. So this is where Izzy suggests a steel cage match. And Tony agrees and says, I don't need the family to beat you. And again, there was another kind of look from Stacks there. Like, what? You don't need us, boss? Like, So we're having a cage match next week. Do you see any kind of swerve or anything with Izzy and Sean Spears and that? The fact that Tony's locked in a cage, is this a way to just, you know, as a trap or anything like that?
True. Yeah. I don't know. Like, I'm trying to look ahead. Like, if Ridge was to take the title from Tony, which I hope doesn't happen, but like that could, especially with like all the other guys. I don't know. I feel like it'd be more interesting with Tony as the North American champion, or maybe like we're talking about Trick and Oba being maybe like the end game here for Stand and Deliver. Whereas I was under the impression maybe we'd go towards Javon versus Oba Femi for that, but like that's clearly not the case and the direction. Whereas then, like, would you put Javon in a North American title picture? So would that be Javon versus Tony or Javon versus Ridge? And like that is something that could potentially be happening. And then another Stand and Deliver match that comes to mind now with all this like teasing of the family, Stacks versus Tony D'Angelo, and the loser gets buried in the Vegas desert. So kind of makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, you do still have Spears, Nico, and Brooks, who have been like looking on the whole time. And I'm wondering if with the cage match, perhaps Tony does win next week, but then Izzy shows that she is actually aligned with them and kind of locks him in the cage with those three who beat him up and maybe that's the direction.
It's not the most exciting direction. It's not the like. I feel like we could be doing like some of the key players here. It's like Sean Spears, Ridge Holland. I'm like, oh, please, like, ugh. This was the voice. I want the next thing. I'm like, what can we do? What else is there for Tony D to feud with? And we've answered that question. There's not a whole lot right now, aside from Ethan Page and Javon already tied up together. So yeah,
we go to our next match: Kelani Jordan versus Karmen Petrovic. This comes from last week when Kelani was kind of giving Karmen a little bit of shit about Ashanti, and Jada Parker was involved as well, and it all got rather nasty. So now we've got Kelani, who is definitely leaning more heel, taking on Karmen here.
Yes, love is in the air in NXT.
So Karmen gets some kicks in early and a bulldog. Kelani does the kind of step over kick, but does it more with like the front of her boot rather than the heel. A little different from RVD. Swings through the ropes with a drop kick. And then Kelani hits a high cross the floor, taking out Ashanti. And this is where Jada Parker comes out. And for those of you on the international feed who get the whole of the commercial break, Jada joins commentary and was kind of funny because she's like just giving shit to Vic, calling him a snitch. She's like, oh, snitch Joseph. And then Book is like, oh, I loved your Rumble performance. You stole the show. And Vic is like, what are you talking about, Book? You said Roxanne Perez stole the show. And Jada's like, there he is. Snitch Joseph again.
This was pretty much Booker T and Corey Graves like gassing her up here, almost like flirting with her while she's standing in front of them. Vic's like, yo, she's blocking my view. I can't even. When Booker and Jada start like bullying Vic here, Booker's going off and yelling and saying all these crazy things. So Vic again is like, Book, I'm sorry, but like you need to, I think he says, for God's sake, Booker, you need to stop drinking 3 energy drinks and maybe just drink 1 on Tuesday nights, essentially. I thought that was pretty funny.
There's a tope cross body from Karmen to Kelani, and then a tornado DDT from Petrovic. And then Kelani, after the break, hits the X Factor, goes for an enziguri, but Karmen kind of grabs it, and it's like a modified dragon screw here, followed by a discus clothesline, some more kicks from Petrovic, and then the Shing Blade kind of didn't get all of it here.
The Shin Blade.
Shing Blade.
Shing Blade, of course.
Kelani hits the Stratusfaction and then counters a DDT into a Northern Lights suplex and now delivers. We've seen her do the angle slam before, but this one was like a crazy twisting angle slam. I thought it looked great.
It was almost like a judgment slam, angle slam. What was the Ryback one he used to do? Like that.
The shell shock?
Yeah, it was kind of like a running angle slam. It was pretty good. I think it was Karmen who does the Stratosphere, right? Like she's the one who does the Toronto Trish connection there, especially hot off Trish in the Rumble. But yeah, I thought that was a pretty cool like series of like combos here from both of them.
And then Kelani hits the one-of-a-kind moonsault, but is staring daggers at Jada Parker on the outside. Hits the one-of-a-kind again, and then locks in a crossface, and Karmen taps. But after the bell, Kelani locks it in again while staring at staring at Parker, and the referee reverses the decision due to the unsportsmanly conduct from Kelani. So Karmen Petrovic wins the match, and Jada Parker is just laughing and then playing the tiny violin for Kelani.
Yeah, so Kelani debuting some sort of like submission. What is this, like a crossface chicken wing kind of?
Yeah, essentially.
Move chicken wing. I guess I love a good chicken wing, and it looked good. I liked that we reversed the decision, so Karmen kind of keeps getting some steam here as well. So see, love does conquer because Ashanti was there for her here during this match. But like I said, I think there was some good stuff in this match. I wouldn't necessarily was like match of the night or anything, which I'm not really sure if there was one, but I thought there was some good stuff from both of them. Like both, I think, are on their way to like becoming more of a complete package eventually down the line. Like again, this wasn't maybe the best match from either of them that we've seen, but at the same time, like there is enough there. Like the
the character, the attitude from Kelani is really good as well. The stuff with Jada, I think that could be really fun. So, yeah, we'll see where that goes.
Yeah, I agree. I definitely like this meaner direction that Kalani's going in. I think it's she was way too squeaky clean for a while, so I think this helps a lot. Karmen, I want to see her start stepping up a bit. Like, I think she shows potential in ring, but she's kind of been at this level for a while now, and I'd like to see her kind of step up as well to keep up with your Jada Parkers and Kalani's. But I thought this was decent enough. We then see Stephanie Vaquer being interviewed in the car park, and we saw...
I was worried. I was very scared.
I was worried. This was definitely set up like something was going to happen, because you had...
Someone was right behind her.
It was, what was it? Carly Bright, I think, and
right.
And someone else. I'm not sure who these two... Like, some NXT talent we don't see a whole lot of were, like, chatting by one of the cars. And then Stephanie says, I've ran through everything in my path. And this is as Lola Vice walks past her as well. And Vaquer says, the eyes of the Dark Angel are on the North American title. Vengeance Day, I make history. I came to NXT to be the champion. And Jacy can't help you. Jasmine can't help you. Fallon, I will see you in hell.
Damn.
So...
the whole time I was like, all right, who's going to attack you?
Definitely expecting an angle here that never happened. Maybe something happened on .com that we don't know about or something. Right, but yeah. And then Bayley with this did get a chuckle. Like, dare I say it, Ava might be growing on me, because Bayley storms into Ava's office and goes, I want that bitch in a match. And Ava just goes, which one? She's like, Cora. And Ava's going, look, Bayley, you have an Elimination Chamber qualifying match on Monday. And Bayley says, I don't care. Put her in the Vengeance Day match if you need to. I want a match with her. So Ava says, okay, next week on NXT, you will have Cora. So we've got that. I assume maybe Cora cheats and gets added to this match, because I definitely see this being a 4-way.
Yeah, that's exactly it. Like, I see it, her being added to it. We kind of were saying last week where she was pretty upset that she wasn't in that match. So that makes a whole lot of sense. Whether she cheats to get added into it, or whether this was all a plan from Roxanne and her, or whatnot. But like, yeah, I would imagine Cora is added to Vengeance Day.
And so next week we've got that match. We've got Ridge versus Tony in a cage, and Lexis King versus Fandango. And then
the state of NXT right now. Fandango in a Heritage Cup match, not a Heritage Cup rules match. Just, anyways. Sorry. So was this where we saw Inamura and Briggs?
Yeah. So Inamura and Briggs then come in, and Fraxium are there as well. And they've both found different opponents for next week. And Fraxium are kind of laughing like, oh, that sounds familiar. Just the two teammates not being on the same page. So they've both picked Hank and Tank and the NQCC. So next week it will be a 3-way tag match, and essentially the winner will get Fraxium at what I assume is Vengeance Day.
Yeah, well, that happened to Fraxium because they both went and tried to get matches at the same time, right? So it is very similar. So I imagine Briggs and Inamura win, which then they are, the number one contenders at Vengeance Day, I would imagine, or like the next week or something, that we do get this match, which does sound pretty exciting. I want to see. I don't think we've gotten a full extent of like what Inamura can showcase, at least yet. So I'm kind of interested to see that.
Waller and Theory are being interviewed as they're about to go to the ring, and Waller says this is a preview of Vengeance Day where Grayson Waller finally is champion. Theory looks pissed. He's like, oh, you're going to be champion. It's going to be me. And Waller's like, me or you, both NXT champions. And their music hits as they're heading to the ring, and we see that same hacker Vengeance Day graphic behind them. So main event time, it's Oba Femi and Trick Williams taking on A-Town Down Under. So Trick Williams starts the match, I believe, and is just beating the shit out of Waller and keeps on looking at Oba and deliberately not tagging him when Oba finally like blind tags him back in, which pisses off Trick Williams. Trick and Oba are then arguing on the outside when Waller hits a tope con hilo, taking both out. And this is where we go to commercial break. After the break, Waller is taking it to Trick and comes off the barricade with an elbow drop to Trick right on the floor.
He was like yelling at him here, like, this guy, you like this guy? He's overrated. He's no good. He's no good, as he's like beating him up.
They had some history, didn't they? They had some matches in NXT.
Yeah.
Field, Trick and Waller. So he hits the elbow drop and then goes for his somersault stunner, but gets popped up with a right hand from Trick. This is when Oba now blind tags himself back in and is just destroying both guys. There's a huge slap to the chest of Theory and then gets both Waller and Theory on his shoulders for a Samoan drop. Hits the toss powerbomb to Theory, sets up for the fall from Grace when Trick tags himself back in, hits the spin kick to Waller, but Theory breaks up the pin. Oba then goes for the fall from Grace to Theory, but Theory kind of counters this with the head scissors to the outside. And now Trick is setting up for the trick shot when the referee is distracted and a wild Eddie Thorpe appears, whips Trick with the strap, and then Waller hits the somersault flatliner for the win.
Yeah, so Eddie Thorpe is back. He's back from the woods. He's returned with the strap, as we kind of saw last week. And here he is costing these two a match, which then leads you to believe this distracts Trick, thus confirming that no, this is the match. It will be Oba versus A-Town Down Under in a triple threat. And Trick is busy with the guy from the woods with the fire and the strap. So, yeah, I'd say that, again, a little like lackluster, but again, we clearly know that the direction for Stand and Deliver will be Trick and Oba. At least that's what we think. So, like, sure, it was basically Trick getting beat up. Oba tags in, beats them both up. Trick tags back in, and then ends up losing. So it does kind of show you that Oba is like, you know, the alpha here in this match. At least that's what it kind of showed on the screen. But yeah, I don't know what it was. I didn't really seem to get into this that much. Great to see Waller still doing that stupid roll before he hits any type of stunner. Did you say this time he did something else? It was a roll in a flatliner.
Hey, so can I introduce you to the people's elbow or the worm or the Terminator dive or the swan?
All those look better than this. All of these look better than this. All of these, this one is just the most ridiculous. I have to leave the ring before I can do a somersault Cirque du Soleil roll.
It was on the outside already, to be fair, this time.
I'm finding myself like, this is our title program on this show, and it left me just not excited about where they're kind of going with a few different things. Like, first of all, Eddie Thorpe being thrown back into this, like, yet again, they're really trying to see what they got with him, I guess. But I don't know. There wasn't necessarily anything like bad wrestling so much in this match. I'm very uninterested in some of the directions that we're going. And it just brings me back to say it's some of the characters that we have right now. The cast that we're dealing with is just, I don't know. It's kind of also retreading things that we have. I mean, we've inserted Grayson Waller and Austin Theory, and it's just not the most exciting pick. So everything just feels kind of just there for me, especially this episode in full just felt like, oh, okay. So Vengeance Day doesn't have the most hype behind it from me, but the most times NXT seem to impress is when you kind of don't expect them to. And then like we've got a few multi-man matches announced and multi-women, multi-people matches that maybe will surprise. But as far as this goes, I can't say this is really like must watch kind of stuff from me.
Yeah, I think for positives for me, something I really do appreciate with like Sean's NXT is every segment does kind of matter. Like everyone on this show has a character. Everyone does have a little story, whether it's main event or something small. Like everyone's got something to do, and therefore like I watch these shows and they do feel very full. Like a lot happens, whether it's Ashanti and Karmen romance or Chase U stuff or whatever, you know, like I don't feel like we have necessarily just complete throwaway segments. That's not to say all of that is good, but I do like appreciate that rather than some wrestling shows I see where I'm like, this has just been booked for the sake of filling a segment. Like, I do feel everyone has some sort of direction, but the downside is, the men's picture in particular is just, they don't have interesting people at the top of the card. And I think maybe some people being miscast, like a Wesley being miscast as a heel right now, is really hurting them, and they need to change that around. I also find it like, Standard delivers their big show. So you're looking at this, and we know the outcomes of these matches already. I'm less disappointed about it not being Bayley and Roxanne one-on-one, because now I think we are getting that at WrestleMania. So I'm kind of for that women's match, even though I think it's a foregone conclusion. But the Oba versus Waller in theory really doesn't. We know who's winning that, and I can't say I'm particularly excited about the opponents. Eddie Thorpe, he's been better as a heel, but still just not interesting enough to be against Trick Williams here. So, and Trick, like, I like him, but not had a good track record with matches, like actual in-ring stuff. No. So that doesn't excite me. So this card is one of the lowest cards I'm on. The pros being, whoever produces these multi-person NXT matches always does a good job. Like, I'm thinking back to like those crazy like 5-person North American matches we had with Wesley way back when, and just, the Heatwave 4-way and the Iron Survivor matches and stuff like that. They normally do a really good job. So I do think these matches are probably going to be more entertaining than we're thinking it is now. But they need to fix this men's division, and whether it's like just taking a punt on some of these new guys we haven't seen yet. Obviously, Javon is a big prospect. We can elevate him. Yeah. Hopefully get some big signings. And I know the temptation is to just throw everyone on Raw, but like, if we can, a Ricky Starks is really going to help this, like, NXT. And dare I say it, it's still a way away, but when Phoenix is ready, just three months before you have him team up with Penta again, because Penta's doing his own thing right now and he's doing well. So the men's division desperately needs it. But that being said, it's been quite obvious the last few months. This show it feels 70% women, 30% men. And that is because the women are just head and shoulders above the men in this brand, I think.
Yeah, I this has to be one of the lowest like hyped cards so far. We haven't said that in quite a while, so I maybe I'm crazy, but like, again, I think we'll be pleasantly surprised of like, hey, some of these multi matches will be fun. But I said I did not like this episode. I really did. This is the most missable episode, and I'm not excited for next week because I got to watch more Ridge Holland. Like, it's the men's division that is just really dragging it down. And like, that's an issue right now with AEW. It's like the men's world title is being like captured, but there's so many other things that are interesting. Whereas in NXT right now, I don't find that. And like in the men's main roster on WWE, like the world titles are interesting. And we're like picturing all these different things and all these different feuds. But here it's not the case. We've just been like retreading some things, and very missable episode for me. I thought definitely my least favorite like bit of wrestling I've watched this year. Just like nothing happened on it. Nothing I'm at all excited about for Vengeance Day. And this is coming hot off a Royal Rumble. I just thought maybe there'd be something a bit more juicier, and definitely not getting that. Definitely not looking like we will the next while. So I just can't wait till we're like over this Vengeance Day cycle to kind of kick things into gear of where things will come. That wasn't the end of the show though, because as we saw Eddie Thorpe beat up Trick, the TV graphic went back to those TV bars and the Vengeance Day graphic thing. And then the camera cut to something backstage. I'm not quite sure, but it was 4 individuals standing here, very ominous shadows of 4 men standing there in the darkness. I was trying to figure out, I'm like, okay, someone's wearing like a bandana, someone's got some dreads. That guy in the middle kind of looks like the shadow of Ricky Stark. It's definitely not, so don't start that kind of thing. But then kind of looking on social media, a lot of people, and I think some people in our chat as well, are saying that it's few of the NXT or WWE ID people. So possibly Shaquan Sugars, Jasper Troy, Cutler James, and Uriah Connors. I've definitely heard of Uriah. So there you go. We're talking about, hey, we need to try some new things. Throw some
Uriah
new things
Connors, that's Finley's brother, right? Fitz.
Oh, of course. Yeah. Thank you, Yami in the chat who wrote those down. But yeah, I'm seeing people kind of speculate on social media that like maybe it's some of these ID people. So it could be some of those people. It looks like it is those 4 names. So more to come, but we will get them at Vengeance Day. And just let me say that I am so happy that it's not the system.
Well, I'm happy it's 4 men. Like,
yeah, we
need. Hopefully, at least one of these has some charisma.
We need men
in-ring skills. Like, yeah, we need men in this company right now, desperately.
We need men. We need you back in NXT. What happened? You let this be taken over by women? Come on. What is this? What's going on, NXT? What's going on, Sean? We know what's going on with Sean. We know Sean. We see.
So are they being given a spooky dookie gimmick? Is that?
I don't know. Is this like the Wyatt Six? Are they all hackers? Yeah, they're all in the darkness. Maybe it's like I don't know, like they're gonna take over NXT. We're all like the Nexus, like the ID version of Nexus taking over NXT. We need it. We need something exciting in NXT. I feel like we've been in a bit of a lull with specifically the men's division. So that's our takeaway from. I learned a lot on this episode. I learned that NXT is kind of boring me this cycle for the run, and I also learned that Lexus King actually paints that stuff on his face because he said it himself that he paints it. So we did learn a lot today, if anything.
Well, that's what we thought. Let's see what you guys thought. We have one piece of feedback this week from Magan, who says, NXT hummed along tonight. Stephanie Vaquer and Jacy Jayne had a very good match. Jacy got in plenty of offense to be on Steph's level. The finish was a bit awkward, but it didn't derail it completely. JDC showing up was a total surprise, making use of the WWE TNA joint venture. I'm glad the system is being kept out of it, and he's a babyface over here. I like the distinction between worlds. The women's title summit was strong, with Bayley and Roxy carrying the majority of it. Giulia's promo was simple, brief, and effective. Shoehorn Charlotte reared her head. The photo below explains why it can't happen again, and it's showing a picture of Rhea and Charlotte from years ago. Giulia got no business being fed her this early. Cora Jade going into business for herself was the right thing to do because of Roxy's delusions of grandeur. The main event was quite fun, with Oba and Trick's tenuous partnership fueling the drama, and the finish means NXT isn't quite done with this Eddie Thorpe experiment.
Yes. And then I see in the chat, Big Time Baxter writes in, overall newsworthy and enjoyable episode of NXT. Just wish the PC crowd would be more tolerable to listen to. Yes, I think also referring to that one bastard always just booing and ruining my... Yeah, maybe you just didn't like the show, and that's fair, I guess. Anyways, hope you liked our show here today. We do this every Tuesday. We will be back next Tuesday night, 10:05 p.m. every Tuesday here on Post Wrestling. As I did mention, we won't be going live after Vengeance Day, but the Sunday after the 16th, we will be live at 2 p.m. here to talk all about it. So catch us on Sunday on Poisonrana. Go to Poisonrana.ca for links of everything that we do, including our tailgate for Elimination Chamber, including our Patreon, including all the stuff. Please go give us a follow on Instagram. Get those numbers up, baby. Appreciate that you do. Am I missing anything else?
I want to make one more little plug as well. Wanted to at the beginning, but we were going on that Elimination Chamber weekend. We are helping out our friends at Rogue Presents, part of Inc. Entertainment, who are putting on an event with Chris Van Fleet as he's going to interview the Hurt Syndicate here in Toronto. And we've got a bunch of tickets that we are able to sell you at a reduced price, where you get to meet Bobby Lashley, Shelton Benjamin, and MVP at Department. It's right in downtown Toronto, very easy to get to. If you are interested, give us an email, poisonranapod@gmail.com, and we'll hook you up with some tickets. We have been given a little discount, so you can get them through us. For more information, go to roguepresents.com.
Yes, absolutely. The Elimination Chamber weekend is going to be crazy, and that's on the Sunday here in Toronto. Now, I don't expect the Hurt Syndicate to show up at Elimination Chamber, being their AEW tag champs and all, but I think it's pretty cool with all the wrestling stuff going on. We got our stuff on Saturday, there's stuff on the Sunday, there's going to be lots and lots of stuff. And hey, while I'm plugging Toronto stuff, or while you were, I got to shout out our friends at Demand Lucha, because on Thursday, February 20th, Plancha Tendencies will be making its return, featuring Fuego del Sol, Gringo Loco, Arez, Sam Adonis, and so many others. And we love to support our local Toronto wrestling scene. And we also support our friends over at Northern Crown, a more new or independent wrestling promotion in Toronto. But you may have heard us just praising the amount of fun that we had at the last one. And I know that they are doing a show February 23rd on a Sunday at Blood Brothers Brewery, which I have to say the beer is awesome, and I'm just saying that because it's the damn truth. So lots and lots of fun stuff in the Toronto area, and I hope we get to meet some of you during Elimination Chamber weekend, because it's always a fun time meeting all the postmarks and everybody, and appreciate everybody out there. Jake in the chat's bringing up that Maple Leaf Pro Wrestling has announced a show for Maple Leaf Gardens as well, I think in May. So the wrestling's thriving, especially here in Canada. And I'll end the show by saying, support Canadian, buy local. If you are Canadian, support Canada. All right, I guess we'll take off, you hoser. Follow us at Poisonrana Pod, all the socials. I myself, Braden Herrington, I'm on Twitter, Instagram, Blue Sky, at the Brady.
And you can find me at Davie Portman.
That is it. That is all. Take care. Goodbye. Be safe. And God bless Duke Hudson. We love you.
Ahoy!